Well, hello everybody, it's the Gary Neville podcast. Amid a certain amount of emotional exhaustion at the London Stadium, off the back of a heart-thumping, gut-wrenching football match, at the end of which Arsenal are 2 games away from being the champions of England, Gary, but I mean, what a tale to tell.
Yeah. I don't know where you start really, other than the fact that there is always a game that goes down in folklore when you go on to win a Premier League title, where the emotions, the roller coaster, the ups and downs of just thinking you've lost it, you've won it, you've lost it again, you've won it again. And from the David Raya save to the Trossard goal to the disallowed goal for West Ham at the end, that was 10 minutes that Arsenal fans will never forget. There are Arsenal fans who might be in their senior years who remember '89, who remember the drama and the thrill of what happened at Anfield that night. And obviously there are big moments at Old Trafford with Viltord and Overmars back in the day where they won titles, but that will be right up there with them. It can never match '89, I don't think, because that was just so special. But yeah, if they go on to win it in a couple of weeks' time, they will have been through the mill today. But there's always, I mean, I said partway through the second half, there's always one like this. And I think it had all the hallmarks of a title-winning half. The keeper's save, let's just hang on that for a second, because the keeper's outstanding, and he has been outstanding all season. He did his job brilliantly today. But your keeper will need to make a huge one-on-one save at some point in a title-winning run-in, where almost like I said, time stands still, and it's like, and you goosebumps, and you're almost like you can't believe that that's all happened in probably 1 or 2 seconds in total. But it felt like forever for me. It just felt like, oh, it's here, and it was Son against Ortega.
Yep.
A moment a couple of years ago, obviously Arsenal were on the wrong end of that, and so many more. Gundogan at the back post against Villa, I think, in, obviously Aguero's. These moments that just sort of come, Steve Bruce against Sheffield Wednesday, these sort of, just these sort of moments come through today to me, and there's probably a load more. But that Raya save was the start of it. That's where you're thinking, right, okay, I used to say this thing when it's happening. You could smell a title when it's happening, because things like that happen. And these Arsenal players have never won a Premier League title before, but if they ever listen to the Gary Neville podcast, which I doubt they do, something's happening. Something's just happened out there today that you can't put down to skill or anything other than you're just looking up there and thinking everything went right for us. And then they score the goal. A bit of quality, a 1-2 between Declan Rice and Ødegaard. And I have to say, Ødegaard, when he came on, was very important, because when everything around you is really fast and it feels like there is a fire burning, you need someone who's cold. And I thought Ødegaard actually provided some real composure in the last 15 minutes. I thought he was really important. Just someone who just makes the game slower, who just gets a control of it, who plays that final pass with the right pace, to the right angle, to the right foot, and he did it perfectly. And then, the drama of all dramas. We think Arsenal have lost it. We think West Ham have scored. Manchester City fans at home are celebrating. Tottenham fans are thinking, oh no. And Darren England, it's all eyes on him. We actually at the start don't know. I mean, one thing at the start was it over the line? That was the thing that I think I was thinking. But it looked over the line from me, and Declan Rice, as it turned out, was way behind the line. But then we see, obviously, a VAR check for a foul on the goalkeeper. And I think that's the biggest moment in VAR history in the Premier League. And for those who maybe, and there are a lot who aren't fans of VAR, and maybe rightly so, but tonight it could have just made Arsenal champions, and it could have got a decision right that wouldn't have been right. And I was wondering whether Darren England had the courage, had the nerve to overturn, and what was he going to do in this moment. And I have to say, we get the luxury And I wish all fans at home and I wish all fans in the stadium got the luxury of VAR, of being able to hear them, because to be fair, he was composed, he was walking through it, he was talking to the referee, he was talking to obviously his compatriot or his colleague who was sat next to him, and he walked through it perfectly, he checked everything around it. There was a little foul by Declan Rice behind, I think that was maybe after the Raya foul. And just the fact that Pablo just had his arm, if Pablo had been jumping like this, I think with leverage as a defender, as an attacker would do, then I would have said no problem. I think that he should be entitled to go for it. But he didn't. He just had his arm there and he wasn't looking at the ball. He wasn't looking to play the ball. And he was looking just to sort of impede the goalkeeper. And he left his arm in that sort of location for a second or two. And I think that is the problem. If it's just one of those where you're sort of just going up as a sort of like a movement, then I think maybe that's something that he would have got away with. But that prolonged, lasting sort of arm across the sort of what would be this position here of Raya, to me, has to then call it. And Darren England made the right decision. And Chris Kavanagh gets called over to the VAR screen. And Arsenal breathed the biggest sigh of relief probably that those fans have breathed for a long, long time.
From a human perspective, for Darren England, under immense scrutiny, and we don't often spend a lot of time bigging up these guys, indeed they take a lot of stick. Darren England was the bloke probably at the centre of the lowest point in the history of Premier League VAR. I don't know, these are football fans, they don't really care. They care whether their team wins or not, ultimately. But you've got to feel some human warmth on his behalf, because what an extraordinary moment in his professional life.
I mean, you're talking about the Luis Diaz incident, Tottenham-Liverpool a few years ago, which was obviously a shocker, and it was a massive low point. And I thought your line was a great line, that the moment that he was experiencing, he may still be experiencing it now, because he'll be waiting to see the fallout of the decision and what the reaction is. So what we say on Sky, what the sort of match of the day will be on tonight, and the other channels will obviously all have opinions, and Talk Sport and all the other channels, and I'm mentioning them all because they'll all be assessing this decision. But if they see it like I saw it, he got it absolutely spot on. And you made a brilliant point that it was the most pressurised decision that he'll get, and he's got an FA Cup final coming up. He won't have anything in the FA Cup final that can compare with that, because the title is there in that moment. It's in the hands of the officials. But that's what VAR was brought in to do, to correct wrongs, to right wrongs in big moments where the players, and I remember we lost a title one year to Chelsea where Didier Drogba was offside. And we probably may have deserved to lose the title overall to Chelsea that season, but we did lose that game at Old Trafford. Didier Drogba was offside, and if we'd had VAR, we potentially could have been champions. And then maybe Chelsea would have had decisions earlier in the season as well that they would have had overturned. So I'm not looking for Chelsea fans to re-referee and look back in history, but you do feel really hard done to. And we didn't want, as players, titles being decided by referees. We wanted there to be accuracy. And there are obviously arguments against it with what's happened with VAR and the introduction of it and the slowing the game down and sometimes them not getting the decisions right. But today was a big, big moment for VAR, I think. It was a big moment in the sense that, I mean, Arsenal, what would they have been thinking tonight if that had not been overturned? They would have been thinking we'd been wronged. So for me, yeah, it was a huge decision, a big moment for Darren England, a big moment for Chris Kavanagh, because he still has to go over and see it through, which they obviously mainly do. But, yeah, I mean, what a big moment for Arsenal. I mean, the roller coaster of Raya save, scoring the goal, conceding the goal, and then back up to the VAR decision overturning it is a monumental swing in 8 minutes, 9 minutes of a football match, and completely and utterly draining.
Yeah, I have to say I'm exhausted. Did Arsenal play well today?
Arsenal play well today.
Does it matter whether Arsenal play well?
Well, it doesn't matter. At this stage of the season, it actually doesn't, to be fair, Peter. It only matters if you get over the line. I thought they started the game really well. I thought the first 15, 20 minutes, they were really positive. I thought they had something going down this side with Trossard and Calafiori. They had something going on the corners and the set pieces. They were playing it forward. And when you've got a team at the bottom at the start of a match against a team at the top, it can be their weakest moment, but if they get through it, they start to grow and start to get encouragement, and that's what happened. And there was a big moment in the first half. And look, Mikel Arteta, this is a game changer for Mikel Arteta. I mean, obviously winning the Champions League is huge, but it will not give him the credibility that a Premier League title would have given me. Absolutely will not. You have to win a Premier League title, I think, to get the credibility as a manager, where he's been in an endurance test, a marathon against Pep Guardiola, and he's got to come out on top in one of these sort of what would be clashes to see this true credibility. Of course, you'll get plaudits and you'll be a legend if you win the Champions League with Arsenal, but if you win a Premier League title, I think within the industry, within the managerial sort of what would be landscape, you go on to a completely different level. And he got a little bit lucky today, Mikel Arteta. And it's not for me to start telling Mikel Arteta how to coach a football team or how to make substitutes, but sometimes it's just glaringly wrong. First of all, Ben White hangs his leg out, and I think I made the point on commentary. And by the way, I'm going to tell a story now. I actually have done what Ben White did. I did it in training, and I went out for a drink on a Saturday night, which I never did, ever. But we didn't have a game for 10 days, and it was the right moment for me to go out and have a drink on a Saturday night. And I actually did my medial ligament in training on the Monday morning. And I went in for a challenge, and I can't remember who it was with. And if you go in for a challenge, a block tackle, and you just hang your leg out away from your body like that, and you lean back a little bit, you'll get that rock of your sort of knee, and you'll basically, particularly if someone goes in solid, so you have to lean into it and go really in strong, put your power forward and really go like, you have to really block and sort of make sure you set your thigh, you set your core, you make sure you lean forward and everything. If you just do that and hang your leg out, you've got a good chance you'll do your medial ligament. And Ben White did that, and he'll regret that, because that could see him out of a World Cup. We don't know, we haven't got the diagnosis yet. But they're usually 4 to 6 week injuries, which would be obviously a big problem for Ben White in terms of not just a World Cup, but a Champions League final and a title running. Let's hope it's not that bad. But that type of injury comes from that challenge. And then Mikel Arteta brought Zubimendi on. And I remember I think it was our director said, Zubimendi's coming on, because they sometimes get the nod from the floor manager down beneath, don't they, from Brett's down there. And I was like, Zubimendi's going, and I went, OK, well, I've never seen Miles Lewis-Skelly play right back. That was my immediate response. I was like, and I went down to our stats and research team and said, has Miles Lewis-Skelly ever played right back? And they went, well, there's no evidence of him ever playing right back. I'm thinking, well, Calafiori must go over to right back then in my head. And I didn't say that, and then he went and put Declan Rice at right back. And straight away I thought, no, for a number of reasons. One is, I think you're taking the energy out of midfield. Secondly, I think you're disrupting 2 positions rather than 1. So if you bring Mosquera on at right back, you're just disrupting the defence. You're not disrupting the defence and the midfield. And the big thing is, you cannot take Declan Rice out of central midfield. Now, I know Roy Keane played in the early parts of his United career when Paul Ince was there, I think, a few games at right back. And Steven Gerrard, believe it or not, I think played a few games at right back as well. But in the early parts of his career, you can't move Roy Keane and Steven Gerrard in a game of this magnitude out of central midfield. They are forces of nature. You can't move Declan. I'm not giving Declan Rice the same sort of level yet as Roy Keane and Steven Gerrard, but he has that level of influence on Arsenal. And when Declan Rice went to right back, it didn't only do the things that I've just mentioned from an Arsenal perspective. I reckon I'm absolutely certain those West Ham players on the pitch, Somerville will have thought, oh, Declan Rice, not played here before, he doesn't know the position. I think the midfield players, Fernandes and Souček, will have thought, I've got Zubimendi and Miles Lewis-Skelly rather than Rice. I'm really happy in here. And also, from a defensive point of view, you're taking away Declan Rice's sort of energy. So West Ham all of a sudden start to get space, they get room. The midfield looks a little bit more vacated. And it was a really, really poor decision. And I'm comfortable to say that, I think, because Mikel Arteta accepted it was a poor decision by the fact he corrected it 15 minutes later at half-time. So he knew it was a poor decision. And I don't think he can sort of try and sell that, oh yeah, I was always going to do it just till half-time. And it was just a really bad decision. So at half-time then, it further exacerbates by the fact that he has to take Calafiori off, who I think's I'm going to use the word force of nature, but down this left-hand side, I mean, he's not Maldini by any stretch of the imagination, Calafiori. Let's be really clear. But you understand the sort of similarities I'm sort of pointing toward. He's got that athleticism about him that when he runs forward, it's very difficult to stop. You then put Miles Lewis-Skelly at left back, which he's not played for. I mean, he's played there, of course he has, but you've taken him out of midfield now, so you end up with Rice and Zubamendi, which wasn't as effective in the last few weeks. That's why we've ended up with Arsenal playing Miles Lewis-Skelly and Rice, and you've ended up then having to make another substitution. So it just exacerbates the situation, and he was always chasing his substitutions, and then towards the end, when he would have had a substitution left if he got the first one right, he would have brought in Capia on for Miles Lewis-Skelly at left back, I'm sure, and had a tall back four, but he couldn't do because he'd used all his subs. The good one he brought on was Ødegaard, because Ødegaard was a game changer out there for Arsenal. He really was. He came on today. He took that captain's armband off Bukayo Saka, and he really did deliver in that last 15 minutes. Not just with the goal, just his moments of just basically sort of bringing a level of sort of class into a game which was really poor quality. And so, for Mikel Arteta, you asked me the question, did Arsenal play well today? No. The most important thing is they won. They got over the line. How they got over the line, who the hell knows in the end? We don't even know ourselves. But I have to say, it was an up and down day for Arsenal fans, but it was an up and down day for Mikel Arteta during the game with his substitutes.
Is it conceivable they'll drop a point now, or do they beat Burnley and Palace? And are we done?
I think they'll. Ordinarily, when this happens, Arsenal beat Burnley. I think City beat Palace. Yeah. I think Arsenal beat Burnley. And I think Arsenal win it on the Tuesday night, the 19th of May.
When City are at Bournemouth. You're backing Bournemouth to take something from City.
By City not doing the job at Bournemouth. It can happen all sorts of different ways. And Manchester City, to be fair, have got that ability to go right to the end. But I think this is a hammer blow for City, really. They've got the game Wednesday against Palace. They've got the cup final against Chelsea next Saturday, so they can win a domestic double, which is a big achievement, by the way, and deserves some congratulations if they go on and do it. And then they've got to go to Bournemouth on the Tuesday. And I think that could just be maybe a step too far with how Bournemouth are right now, and it's been Iraola's last game at Bournemouth, and just the fact they're a good side. And they're the type of team, I called this today a dog of a game for Arsenal. It was a dog of a game, this. I think the game a week on Tuesday is a dog of a game for Manchester City, and I think that's when it, in my mind, if you're predicting it now, I think Arsenal will win it without kicking a ball on that Tuesday night.
Interesting. We'll see how that plays out. What about West Ham? How do they come back from here? They've got to go to Newcastle, and then they've got a home game here against Leeds, who, by the way, are now safe, which affects the dynamic of their game at Tottenham tomorrow, of course, all of that. But essentially, West Ham have 2 wins would take them to 42 points, and that still might not be enough. Can they win the last 2 off the back of what they've just been through here?
I mean, Peter, that Trossard goal could be it's the most important goal in Arsenal's recent history in the Premier League. That Trossard goal is the most important goal, potentially, in Tottenham's entire Premier League history. And the VAR decision at the end is potentially the biggest VAR call in Premier League history for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, because they now tomorrow night have an opportunity to go 4 points clear, don't they? And that's a massive, massive incentive to go into that game. And they needed their great rivals to do them a favour today. I think Nuno knew at the end when that goal was disallowed that potentially that could be it. I think he realised that he needed something out of the game. And if Tottenham do the job tomorrow night, I think that's it. I think they'll get over the line. I think it'll be too much for West Ham. And look, these are 2 great football clubs. Tottenham have flirted with relegation. They've flirted around the bottom 4 or 5 of the league in the last couple of years. West Ham have done it over a number of years and sometimes had successes, but sometimes they've moved up the league. But quite often they've been fighting relegation in the last, is it 14 years, did you say? That
14 years they've been
in the Premier League. But they've had quite a few relegation battles along the way, haven't they? And it'll catch you at some point. It will catch you at some point, and I think that I'm asked before the game, what is the financial stability of West Ham right now to be able to go down? What happens? Have they got the muscle to be able to keep Nuno keep most of these players together, because that team there today, that with those 3 centre-backs, those 2 wing-backs, you know, the quality they've got with Bowen, Castellanos, Pablo, Somerville, Souček and Fernandez, if they can keep the majority of those together, they'll come back up again. But if someone comes and pinches Bowen, pinches Somerville, pinches Fernandez, before you know it, you're into a sort of the realms of, oh, what's going to happen? So, yeah, it's a really important period. I never like talking about the teams going down. I'm not talking about them. I never like the idea of teams getting relegated because it's desperate. But I will be happy this year that 2 different clubs are going down than came up. You know, Leeds and Sunderland are going to stay up, and I think we needed that sort of rot of the sort of same teams going up and down to break. We needed that to change, so I'm really happy about that. And it was always going to mean that one of the clubs that maybe have been more of a stalwart in the Premier League are going to go down. But actually it needs that. It needs a Tottenham to go down. It needs a West Ham to go down to demonstrate that the competitive element of the Premier League at the bottom is still there. So, yeah, unfortunate for West Ham fans. They've been through a roller coaster today, but I do think that tomorrow night, look, Leeds might be free as a bird tomorrow night and just play beautifully. They came to Old Trafford a few weeks ago under pressure. We were there on a Monday night, and they played absolutely incredibly to go and beat Manchester United 2-0. So they've got it in them. But will tonight Leeds United go to bed and go, just relax, and wake up in the morning just that little bit more chilled? And just stick a little bit more extra milk on your cereal, a bit more cereal in there, maybe have a bacon sandwich. You know what I mean? It sounds crazy, but you know, I mean, they won't do, I'm sure. But you know, the idea of just relaxing, because it's a battle. It's a massive event for these clubs to stay in the Premier League that come up from the Championship. And Daniel Farke, when were those games against Chelsea and Liverpool and Manchester City in a week? Was it November? October, November was it? And I was at 2 of those games, and the writing was on the wall for him. So for him to come out of where he was is a brilliant sort of performance from Leeds and from the manager. And so, yeah, tomorrow night, West Ham United's Premier League status, I think, is in the hands of Leeds. A Leeds United that are now safe. And that isn't helpful. I think that goal at the end would have meant Leeds would have had to have gone and sort of got something tomorrow night, which would have... Is that right, Peter? Yeah. Which means that there's just something, there's an edge on it for Leeds, whereas that edge is now not there for Leeds. And what you're actually asking for is the Leeds players to be exactly the same as they were if they were under pressure. And that's difficult enough. If you've already won the league, I'll just transfer it to the top. If you've already won the title, you step off it. If you've already saved relegation, you just step off it. So I'm not just accusing Leeds players tomorrow night of just stepping off it. Villa last week, when they sort of thought that they were okay and that they could concentrate on the Europa League game, they just step off it in a game against Nottingham Forest. So those things naturally do happen.
On West Ham, you mentioned the players, the top players who might go. It's hard to imagine Jared Bowen playing in the Championship, isn't it?
Difficult.
Almost certainly one. But what about the manager? Because there's been a bit of a narrative this week. The stories have begun around West Ham folk reportedly saying, whatever happens, Nuno, please stay. And it's a pity for them. Oh, it's more than a pity, but they appear to be on the way down, not confirmed. Him having created a little bit of something. There's been a vibe here in recent weeks. They don't. Today they didn't necessarily look like a relegation team. How important for them that he is convinced to stay? Do you think he's the right sort of guy to have?
Yeah. Whatever they need to do to keep him, they should keep him, because what that will do is stabilise things. It will stop the domino effect of, well, if you're losing the manager, you lose the best players. You know, the rest of them then that are still left have got excuses, and the fans become demotivated. So if you're an owner of a club that goes down, what you want to do straight away is hang on to your manager if he's the one that's not taking down, which Nuno hasn't. So he's the one that basically, I think, has given them hope. And then what you probably have to do is go to a Bowen, a Somerville, a Pablo, a Castellanos, a Souček, a Fernandez, and say, okay, I need 12 months from you. I need you to get back up. This great club and these fans, these 60,000 fans that will come and watch us, can't be in the Championship for more than 1 year. And you're part of the problem, guys, in this last 12 months. You're the ones that have basically contributed to taking us down. I get the fact that ultimately we all take responsibility. It's collective efforts, and collectively we lose and we win together. But you're part of this, and you try and basically stabilise everything. And particularly, I think Bowen and Nuno would be the two big things that you'd look to sort of hang on to. Now, that's why I asked the question about the financial stability of the football club, because if they need 70 or 80 million all of a sudden just to stabilise the club financially, then they're going to have to lose a Fernandes or a Bowen or two. You know what I mean? So that's the thing I don't know about West Ham right now, is what is the underlying financial situation, and what have the owners got left in muscle to be able to keep a Bowen, a Fernandes and others that I think, would be, hiked off them by other clubs.
These days, please correct me if I'm wrong, but these days they don't stay when they go down, do they? I mean, West Ham fans, for instance, of a certain generation will remember when West Ham went down in the 70s, their Jared Bowen was Trevor Brooking.
Yeah, did
and
Newcastle...
Trevor Brooking stayed and came back up.
Yeah, but did Newcastle go down? And
they did keep a few.
Who stayed at Newcastle? And I think Newcastle fans absolutely loved him. I can't remember who it was now. But Newcastle went down, didn't they? And I think that they kept a couple of players that sort of said, I'm going to get the club back up. So I think that you're right. I mean, ordinarily, Bowen won't want a year in the Championship, and he'll want to basically play in the Champions League and in Europe. But he's also, I think, he's a solid lad. He's from this neck of the woods.
Well, not originally, but he's married into this neck of the woods.
But I mean, he's almost like tied to the club. Yes, it feels like he's wedded to the club, doesn't it? It's almost like he's like one of those. If he left, it wouldn't just be pleasant for him. I don't think he'd be getting cheered back like Declan Rice potentially. You know what I mean? I don't know. But I just look at it and think, oh, he came from Hull. He was at Hull, wasn't he?
He was at Hull.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a Herefordshire boy.
Yeah. So but it feels like he is West Ham. You know what I mean? It just feels like he is. Look, let's see what happens. I don't know the financial strength of the owners. I don't know what's going to happen. But Nuno, I think, absolutely is the first person you've been knocking on the door and saying, look, commit. And let's get this announced, by the way, in the next week. The minute we go down, if we do go down, Nuno stays is the first thing you want to be saying to fans, so that you can say, right, OK, don't demoralise them even more than what being relegated would do.
So let's finish on Arsenal, because they're the top headline. In 1999, you were chasing the title and the European Cup. As it happens, you were chasing the FA Cup as well. They're not. But you know how it feels. You know how the next fortnight feels for Arsenal. So just finish by telling us that.
Yeah, we had such momentum. Arsenal have got such momentum right now, beating Atletico Madrid over two legs. City dropping points at Everton. Winning today in the way in which they have. Winning today in the way in which they have is far more special than winning the game 3-0. You'd much more like... You'd love to win games 3-0 so you're comfortable. But winning that type of game builds your confidence, your resilience, your momentum more than anything else. They should be absolutely in dreamland tonight, these Arsenal players. They should be unstoppable. They should be absolutely unstoppable. Nothing should be able to stop them now. There should be no obstacle that you could put in front of them that they wouldn't be able to just get out of their way. Because they've got past Atletico Madrid. They're in a Champions League final. They've got through a game like this, their last and toughest game, that we looked at and thought, it's a horrible game. And they've still got a job to do in the last two, but I just don't see how you can't be unstoppable. And then you get to the final of the Champions League, and they've somehow got to think about their defensive ability and strength, and how can they over 90 minutes beat a team that are better than us. They are. You can't get away from that. PSG are a better team than Arsenal right now. They've demonstrated that over the last two seasons by winning the Champions League and getting to a final again. Back-to-back finals is some level of performance. So Mikel Arteta, but it gives him, is it 10 days, 2 weeks to be able to prepare?
Well, less than that.
Is it 31st, is it?
It's the week after the final Premier game.
But he's got 2 weeks from now, has he? He's got 2 weeks from now, but he's got a week after the end of the final. Look, he's got a week to prepare, to think about how he can become not only legends of the club by winning a title, to win Arsenal's first Champions League, and in a season where they win the Premier League for the first time in 22 years. I mean, you're talking about... This is a game changer today for Mikel Arteta and the Arsenal players. Winning this and the Champions League puts them onto a different level. And that's going to be tough, because they're playing against a team who are absolutely stunning. Absolutely stunning. But it's 90 minutes of football. But what a lot they have to look forward to. and it felt like the right moment for us. For now, it feels like the right moment for me for Arsenal to win a league. It doesn't quite feel like the right moment for them to win a Champions League. It feels like PSG could be the right moment for them to win back-to-back, and for Enrique to put himself up there with the godlike managers that have done this. It feels like more that than maybe Arsenal winning a double. But it doesn't really matter. If Arsenal were to lose in that final and win the Premier League, I would still say it's a sensational season. And if they were to go and win the Champions League and the Premier League double, it would be yeah. I mean, that's putting them into a different stratosphere of sort of what will be credit and belief and legacy. But we still shouldn't forget about Pep Guardiola. He might still have something to say. But it does feel like now it's Arsenal's.
Well, we'll see what happens next
Thanks,
fortnight.
Peter.
Well done, Gary.
Enjoyed that. Thank you.
Thank you.